Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of your Daily Guides. Version 4.2 for Honkai Star Rail is stacking a full lineup of limited banners, split cleanly across 2 phases, and the overall value of this patch really depends on which team archetype you're trying to build. Phase 1 introduces Silver Wolf level 999, alongside reruns for Firefly, the Dahlia, and Castoris, while Phase 2 brings in Evanescia with Sunday, Tribby, and Fei Xiao returning. With 8 limited units in one patch, this is less about pulling broadly and more about committing to a direction if you are free to play. Silver Wolf is built as a fast-paced DPS, but her core system is completely different from standard energy-based characters. Instead, she runs on an MMR mechanic, which builds through generating punchlines via her skill and teammate follow-up attacks. Once she hits 60 MMR, she enters her God Mode player state, which fundamentally changes how she plays. In that state, she pulls enemies into a controlled domain and upgrades both her basic attacks and skill output. On top of that, she cycles through loot boxes that introduce random effects. These range from true damage options like the big flipping sword to utility like skill point recovery or additional MMR generation. The randomness is controlled enough to stay impactful without breaking consistency, which makes her feel more like a scaling DPS than a gamble unit. Her team's synergy leans heavily into Elation setups. Characters that trigger follow-up attacks accelerate her MMR generation, so units like Sparksy and Yao Guang fit naturally. Even without premium options, the Elation trailblazer still supports her core loop effectively. What pushes her further is her passive, Firewall, which grants the entire team crowd control immunity for 1 turn whenever an ally is debuffed. That effect applies even if she isn't actively deployed, which gives her value beyond just damage. The reruns in Phase 1 are much more specialized. Firefly continues to define super break teams, and with the incoming Nova Flare buffs, her damage ceiling stays competitive. The Dahlia is essentially tied to that playstyle, enabling super break damage before enemies are fully broken, which speeds up overall rotations. Castoris sits in a different category. Her damage is high, but she depends heavily on a specific high-investment remembrance team, which limits her flexibility unless you already have the full setup. Phase 2 shifts back into Elation with Evanescia. She's designed as a physical DPS, but her kit revolves around linking her energy system to a unique stat called Certified Banger. As one increases, the other follows, and that feedback loop feeds directly into her damage output. She also has a dual charge ultimate system, which allows for back-to-back burst windows if managed properly. A big part of her damage comes from her companion, Master Fox, which triggers follow-up attacks that scale with her current energy state. That makes her another unit that benefits from sustained setups rather than quick swaps. Her best teams mirror that structure. Supports like Sparkle and Sunday help maintain tempo, while other Elation-focused units reinforce her follow-up mechanics. She doesn't just fit into the archetype, she reinforces it. The reruns in this phase bring some of the strongest supports back into rotation. Sunday remains one of the most impactful Harmony units, offering full action advancement and strong crit buffs, especially for teams that rely on summoned entities. Tribby adds consistent value through resistance penetration and vulnerability application, making her one of the more flexible supports across multiple team types. Fei Xiao, while still solid as a follow-up DPS, ends up being harder to justify here, simply because the newer Elation units offer more synergy within the current patch direction. Looking at the patch as a whole, the decision comes down to focus. If you're building around Elation, both Silver Wolf and Evanescia are clear priorities, each offering a different approach to the same archetype, one centered on scaling mechanics, the other on sustained burst cycles. If your account leans toward break-based gameplay, Firefly and the Dahlia still form the most complete and reliable core. The safest approach is to hold resources until later in Phase 1. By then, there should be enough high-level gameplay available for Evanescia to make a direct comparison before committing. With this many banners stacked together, timing your pulls matters just as much as who you're pulling for. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown and found it helpful, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.